Shot in front of a live audience at Margarita Republic. It's Shots from the Bench. And now your hosts, Bob Whitman and Bob Murphy.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Shots from the Bench. It's just sports talk, and all opinions offered, of course, are both fabulous and flawed. I'm Bob Wiltman. He's Bob Murphy, and we got Greg Malinzuk behind the scenes, running the cameras and trying to keep sanity. We're here at Margarita Republic at Spanish Springs in the Villages, where the food, the fellowship, and the fun is always first seated. We're here every Monday from 2 to 3 p.m., so come down now and see us today, or maybe next week, and be ready to be part of the Village's only sports talk show. Now, we're going to play Stump the Panel later on today. It's not as hard as it sounds, and probably pretty easy, but we're also going to throw some stuff back at you. We've got some trivia questions of our own, and let's see who is the last man or woman standing after we throw some of our trivia right back at you. And Bob, interesting, and now there are 5. There were 6 undefeated, and Atlanta got their butts whooped. So
Yes,
they got kicked by a
New
New
Orleans?
Orleans team that was up against the wall and frankly had to win that game. And
Right.
they actually
Played like it too, didn't they?
Yes, they did. They played a very, very good game, a game that they were supposed to be playing 6 weeks ago, frankly, but they hadn't.
Every once in a while, the Saints look like the old Saints. I mean, like
Every
a couple
once
of years
in a while,
ago.
but
They got to do it
sometimes-
on a more consistent basis,
Yeah,
obviously.
2 and 4 is not going to get it done, right? But hey, if they get it turned around, they go on a 7 or 8 game run, right back where they're supposed to be. But right now, they're a long, long way behind Carolina. You got to tip your hat to Carolina. I didn't see them being one of the elite teams in the league when this season started, and they've.
Well, Cam Newton and that defense are making things exciting and interesting. That's for sure. They came from behind and beat Seattle, of course, on a late touchdown. That was quite an impressive drive, actually, toward the end of the game.
It's extremely impressive. And when you mentioned Seattle, I wanted to bounce this off you. I'm trying to figure out what in the world's happened to them in terms of their defensive intensity, because they were pushing people around last year, and I mean, legitimately, they're just playing great football.
Well,
and now they're just fourth quarter collapsing all
Yeah.
over the place. I don't know if it's coaching, I don't know if it's player intensity, I don't know if it's a scheme, I don't know what it is.
Well,
but
they
have
they show signs of it. You know, they show signs of in games where they're just dominating and pushing people around and sacking the quarterback and doing stuff like stopping the run, whatever, being, walking around like they used to.
Yeah.
But then they give away that play yesterday that they gave up to the Panthers late in the game. They're pointing at each other in the end zone. They're pointing.
Can't
like,
happen.
you should have done this and you should have done that. Well, like what happened there, They haven't just like 1 or 2 big plays that seem to kill them every week.
Well, that's like I said, they're digging themselves slowly but surely in a little bit of a hole. I still think for some reason they're going to make the playoffs, but right now they're 2 and 4 and they're blowing an awful lot of games that they should have won. So
Can't lose too many more.
no, but like I said, now there are 5. You got Denver, Cincy, New England, Carolina, and Green Bay, and frankly, 3 of them are off next week because of bye week. So you've got Carolina and you got New England. Carolina's got the Eagles at home, but that's same situation for Carolina. The Eagles got to win that game if they want to stay in the
That's gonna be a
hunt
tough
with all
one.
those peoples. Yeah, that's going to be tough.
That's going to be tough for them to go down to Carolina and beat the Panthers the way they're playing right now. But, stranger things have happened. But,
well, you're right.
But it looks, if you had to guess who's going to win that game, I would pick the Panthers based on their the way they're playing right now.
I wouldn't have bought it 5 weeks ago, but I couldn't agree with you more. Right now, they're coming up big in clutch time every time the game's been played. So, and the other game that I think is going to be really significant is the Jets in New England.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Holy mackerel! The Jets.
I think the Jets are salivating over that one.
I think the Jets. It's going to be a statement game one way or the other. And I give New England credit because they're always cool and collected, and they always seem to play within themselves. Don't get in any pushing and shoving matches. Just play good, intense football. But I'll tell you what, the Jets.
The Jets' defense too is
this
like
is their
they're number 1
chance.
in the NFL. It gave up only 75 points to this point going in, and of course they're playing the Patriots. But But they're coming in with a more balanced attack, don't you think?
Oh,
compared to the last few years.
No question about it. With Ivory, I mean, they've got some big weapons now that they can come out
Sure.
of the blocks with. And I'm just saying that should be an interesting game. And then again,
That's a grudge game too. They don't like each other.
and like I said, and let's reflect a little bit on the remaining teams: Denver, Cincy, and Green Bay. Now they're not going to be playing next week, but Cincy, my hat's off to them. I wasn't a believer until I saw them play the last 2 weeks. Now I'm a believer. They look like they've taken that one step they needed to take forward. Now they're beating some very good teams and beating them to go into Buffalo, and Buffalo was riding high after their win the week before, and to basically stomp on them.
34-21, yeah.
That's an impressive statement that they made.
Yeah. Well, Andy Dalton just keeps spreading the ball around. Devontae Freeman. I'm sorry. Yeah. I messed up down that one.
No, it's okay.
But anyway,
his weapons are his weapons.
His weapons are his weapons. But, yeah, absolutely. And their defense is playing really well, too.
Defense is playing a lot better than it has the last couple of years, so I think that's really the glue holding them together right now. And like I said, Denver goes into Cleveland and gets a real shock, but they come out of there with a win. I know everybody's all over Peyton for throwing three interceptions.
3 interceptions, that's right.
Fact of the matter is they're 6-0, and anytime you go into and Cleveland's a team on the rise, anytime you go into a hostile environment and end up winning the game.
Peyton Manning, even though his decline, they're still winning. Okay, you're not going to, even though 3 interceptions, he seems to be getting worse every week. We talk about this every week. But the thing is, who are you going to put in there for him? With his experience and everything, he makes some good throws too.
The fact that they're 6-0, if they lose 3 in a row, maybe they'll think about it. But I don't think they're going to.
One thing to think about, just as a point of reference with Peyton Manning, his last 16 games, he's thrown 25 touchdown passes with 22 picks. Okay. His previous 16 before that, he had 48 touchdowns with 10 picks. So there's a big difference in the last 16 games between the 16 before that.
There's no denying the fact that there's some kind of a little decline of some sort in ability
or injury, age, or whatever, a combination thereof.
Is he 39, 40 now? I mean, good grief. But you know what? He's still got the leadership skills. And he can still throw to spots and. 6-0. I think he'd look at us and say, "You tell me what the problem is. We haven't lost." It's
Maybe
okay.
as you get older, you think a little. Don't
that's
think as quick as you thought before. You're quicker on the draw.
Well, let's talk real briefly about the NFL and the teams on the rise. And I've got my little list here, and we talked about the Jets already, but I think the Jets are really a team that everybody's going to have to pay attention to. They're playing some great football. They got their quarterback. Fitzpatrick. Is it Fitzpatrick?
Yeah,
and
Ryan Fitzpatrick,
and he is, while he's unspectacular, he doesn't make many mistakes, and he's got great leadership skills. Reminds me of Joe Cap almost.
I like the way he runs out of the pocket and gets a first down as well.
Well, he's not afraid to take a couple of shots.
Yeah.
That touchdown he scored yesterday, he didn't pull up and curl up on the ball and dive.
He's getting 40, 50, 60 yards of rushing every game. So
that's spectacular.
That doesn't hurt, that's for sure.
So he's
another thing the defense have to think about.
They're on the rise. A team that I really want to tip my hat off to, even though they lost in overtime. The Browns have been down for so long, and they've had all with everything with Manziel and with this McCown is, I think, playing very inspired football for the Browns. Remember, they had I can't even remember his name. They had the top receiver in the league that 1 year, and it's just amazing that they always seem to trip over their own feet.
They gave the Broncos everything they could handle.
And they're playing good football. Now,
lost in overtime.
They're not like laying it on the ground and giving. They're not hot dog, and they go out. They always had a problem with, even when they were 2-14, they would still hot dog. And now I think they're finally coached well, and I think they're ready to move up in that division.
Yeah, move up the.
They got another year to go.
Respectable ladder.
And I think they're there, and also the Steelers. I tip my hat to them because without Roethlisberger and some iffy Vic is hit or miss, and the young kid Jones came in and played some pretty good
Landry
football.
Jones
Didn't get too excited, but
I think he was a 6th-round pick. but you know what? They're excited about him playing next week.
They're excited about him.
They like what they're seeing.
But what's happening with the Steelers is
4-2.
They're getting a defense.
Yeah.
Their defense has been walked over the last 3 or 4 years.
With all this uncertainty at quarterback, to be 4-2 after these 6 games is great for them. I mean, that can only bode well later when Big Ben comes back.
That's a run. They got the Chiefs next week, and I think Ben won't be back next week. But if they can beat the Chiefs in Kansas City, they'll be 5-2. That's not bad without
I
your
think they
starting
will.
quarterback. And speaking of the teams on the rise, we all got some. Let's talk about real quickly the teams that are plummeting. I just cringe when I watch the Bears. I always respected the franchise, like the Bears. I don't know what in the world they're doing when they look to me like they're totally discombobulated. They don't know what's going on.
Well, I think defensively they're not the Bears that
No,
we're
that's
used
right.
to.
You're right.
You know, they lost in a shootout to the Lions, 37-34. Matthew Stafford and you know, what's their Calvin Johnson.
Calvin
Calvin
Johnson,
Johnson. I was trying to think of his nickname, and I shouldn't have done that.
The Bears, unfortunately, are the Bears.
Yeah.
The Chiefs, I thought were going to be much better, and the Chiefs are just wallowing. They're playing flat, and they have a chance to turn around against Pittsburgh next week. But I don't like what I've seen of the Chiefs. And we talked about, of course, Seattle being 2-4 when they should, with their talent, they should be 5-1 at least.
Sputtering. Yeah.
And the last team that I want to mention, and I'm sorry, Russ Jones, our usual cameraman's not here. He's a Baltimore guy. The poor Ravens, when they lost Suggs, the heart and soul of their defense, that team just is not
the same at all.
They're playing to lose it almost, looks
Yeah.
like. So I don't know where the rest of the season is going to take them. But there's the recap of the NFL after the first 6 weeks of the season. And
We didn't even get into the play yet.
well, I'll tell you what, I'll tell you what, the play.
We'll talk about that when
We'll
we come
talk
back.
about that when we come right back. And this is the play that if you weren't watching last night, you'd have missed it. We'll talk about it. We'll be right back after this.
That's right. I'm surprised.